In today's lecture, we'll have a look at keyboard navigation in our accessibility section. Introduction. Some users aren't able to use a mouse to navigate or operate their computer and by extension their websites they visit. These users may instead rely on using a keyboard or other assistive technology that can simulate keyboard inputs such as voice recognition software. Other users may even just prefer using a keyboard over a mouse or may use a mix of both. These users require proper keyboard navigation, something that can easily be overlooked when developing a website. Learning outcomes. Know the two things that interactive elements must have for keyboard users. Understand what focus styles are and why you shouldn't completely remove them. Understand what the tab order is. Know how to properly hide hidden content from assistive technologies. Focus. Remember our rock, paper, scissors example that we didn't use semantic HTML from the semantic HTML lesson? Another issue with using div and span elements is that by default, they aren't focusable and they don't have any event handling by default. In order to fix our semantic rock, paper, scissors example, for keyboard users, we would need to take some extra steps similar to the below code snippets. So these were the divs, and then there was rock, a button, classes known as button, and then tab index, all of them are 0. The tab index attribute makes the div elements focusable. So if you give the tab index attribute, then the div elements will be focused on by assistive technologies. We also need to manually add in event handling for both mouse and keyboard events. Const buttons, so this is query all the buttons. Name alerter, if it's a click or E key enter or a space. Text content, target alert text constant for each button. Add the key, click, and the key down, add the name alerter. Alert E target text content. So if they click, if they press space, or if they press enter. Of course, this example then makes it less understandable for screen reader users. Remember, these buttons won't provide any context because these are not semantic HTML, but just class names. Not only does using the button element provide the context screen reader users need, but they are focusable and have event handling for keyboards by default. Pressing the space or enter keys on a keyboard when a button has focus will trigger the click event. The point is that you need to make sure that any interactive elements are focusable by and have event handling for keyboards. Using the correct semantic HTML can make this a lot easier of a goal to accomplish. But if you ever need to use an element that isn't focusable or doesn't have any event handling by default, then you need to add both of those functionalities in manually. So you'll use JavaScript to add these functionalities. Focus styles. Another aspect of focusable elements is their focus styles, which are usually an outline or border surrounding the element when it receives focus. One of the things you may have done or may still do is completely remove these focus styles by using CSS rules similar to the example below. So I think in reset CSS, these are so ugly, let's get rid of them. On focus initer, this is outline none, border none. You probably assume that you are about to be told not to do this. Well, you should never completely remove focus styles. You should either leave these default focus styles alone or you should replace them with your own focus styles. Whether it's adding a transform scale CSS property to a button, adding an outline to a link, or increasing the border width and opacity on an input, adding your own focus styles is the only alternative you should consider to the default focus styles. So this is important. You should never completely remove focus styles. Why? Completely removing focus styles can make a page impossible for keyboard users to navigate and operate as they have no visual indication what element actually has focus. It would force them to have manually keep track of how many times they have pressed the tab key while also trying to guess what elements are actually focusable. Imagine trying to browse a website with an invisible cursor and without any visual indication of when the cursor was hovering over interactive elements like links or buttons. Doesn't sound too fun, does it? Tab order. The tab order is the order in which elements on the page will receive focus when pressing the tab key and is by default in the same order as the order of elements listed in the HTML file. So HTML gives the markup, the structure. So the tab order also follows that same HTML structure. This element is first in the tab order. So tab index 0, div tab index 0, first element in the HTML. Second in the tab order, tab index 0, this is the second element listed in the HTML. Sometimes you may find it necessary to either change the visual order of elements on a page using CSS, the float or order properties for example, or the tab order of elements themselves using the tab index attribute. Regardless of which method you may use, you should make sure the tab order matches the visual order of the elements. If the tab order is different from the visual order, users could be left confused or frustrated trying to navigate the page with a keyboard, expecting one element to receive focus based on the visual layout and instead another element receives focus. So that can be a frustrating experience. The best way to avoid this issue is to just place elements in your HTML file in the order that you want them to actually receive focus. So it should be in that order only. Hidden content. Sometimes you may want to hide some content until a specific event occurs, such as a user clicking on a button to open a menu or a modal box. When you want to hide content for this sort of purpose, you need to make sure the content is not only visually hidden, but also hidden from assistive technologies until that content is meant to be visible. If you don't properly hide such content, then keyboard users would be able to tab into that content before they are meant to, but in doing so, they would lose track of any visual focus on the page. These users would be left confused or even frustrated when they're trying to tab through a page only for their focus indicator to disappear into that hidden content. One way to prevent this frustrating behavior is to give each individual item in that hidden content a tab index value of -1, since that prevents an element from receiving focus via the keyboard, though you can still give it focus with JavaScript's focus method. While this fixes the issue for keyboard users, other assistive technologies would still have access to and could still announce this hidden content. So you should be careful while using this. A better solution is giving the container for the hidden content itself either the display none or visibility hidden CSS property when it's hidden, and removing or overriding their property when it's meant to be visible. This not only removes the menu items from the tab order, but it also prevents assistive technologies from announcing them. So this is a better solution, display none or visibility hidden. Assignment. Watch what is focus. This is an article on YouTube, video on YouTube, to see some issues that occur when trying to change the tab order. Then watch controlling focus with tab index to see how using the tab index attribute can affect the tab order. Knowledge check. So what are the two things that interactive elements must have for keyboard order? So tab index and those. What are focus styles? So you know now what are the different focus styles that are used. So you should never remove the default focus styles unless you replace them with your own. Why should you never completely remove focus styles from an element? Because it would make it inaccessible for some users. What is the tab order? So it's the order in which the screen reader or accessible other technologies would read the page, would follow the page. What is the best way to hide hidden content from assistive technologies? So display none or visibility hidden. That will totally take out of the tab index order. Additional resources, skip links. So this is on webaim.org, are another form of accessibility for keyboard users and can be especially helpful for those who require more effort to tab through the contents of a page. So you want to skip certain links, then you use that skip links. With that, we come to the end of this lesson. We will move on to the next one.